So we're getting into the second paragraph now, and there's a couple of things that I'll state from the legal premise. I read it again, and there were actually some notable things there. But one thing to consider is that uh, if someone commits genocide, it is illegal, no matter whether they agree that it's illegal or not. So if I say that I don't believe in international law and I commit a genocide, it is still a genocide. So it's still illegal for me to do it. And then another one is that um, a state has sort of a responsibility to stop a genocide. So if I find out that there's a genocide and I'm my own state, I have to, try to stop it. And for sure, I cannot join in on it or help the one who does it. So the legal analysis had a few pointers there, but there is a link to the page so you can sort of read what is in there. But I'll try to focus on this part. It also said that it limits this, it temporally limits it. So it's a time scale from the beginning of the war, October 7th, 2023 to 15th of July, 2025, because you have to, end somewhere because there's always new information coming in. So you have to sort of limit the time scope of things. But here is the second paragraph that we're looking at. According to the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, there we go, OHCHR, as of July 15th, 2025, at least 46% of Palestinians killed in Gaza since October 7th, 2023 were women, and children, 17,921, and the women were 9,497 out of 58,380 verified deaths at the time. So here they speak of verified deaths. So deaths that they, for me, verified, I think it means that they know the cause of death in a way, or the method of death. So they know, they've been to a coroner and they know who the person is, I would imagine, but I guess they don't have to know who the person is exactly, so long as they have it's verified that they're dead. Notably, the deaths of women and children comprised nearly 60% of the total fatalities from the resumption of Israeli military operations on March 18th, 2025 until March 25th, 2025. According to OHCHR, there were 224 Israeli strikes on residential buildings and tents for displaced people in the Gaza Strip between 18 March and 9 April 2025. In some 36 strikes about which the UN Human Rights Office corroborated information, the fatalities recorded so far were only women and children. On 25 March 2025, Save the Children reported that more children have been killed in the first week since Israel resumed its military operation in Gaza compared to any other week since October 7th, 2023. The Commission notes with alarm a report that finds, as of May 2025, Israeli intelligence officials have listed 2,900 militants from Hamas and Palestine Islamic Jihad in Gaza as dead or probably dead. Considering at this point 53,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks, it means that 83% of those killed in Gaza were civilians. So let's start unpacking this. 46% of Palestinians killed in Gaza since October 7th were women and children out of 58,380 verified deaths at the time. So this would be interesting, but we already know that the data is, the way they portray data is, I would call it fraudulent. Fraudulent is a strong word at this point to say it already, but it is wrong. And I, because this is a UN commission, like everybody's been, quoting this and waving this report around, I would give it like the strongest demands to be as articulate and accurate as humanly possible. So this should be the top of the top, especially with the weight that's been given to it. So 46% Palestinians killed women and children. And then when you look at some of them are militants from the women, and I would say, I can only guess, but I would say that a lot of the children are actually teenagers that were combatants, because remember the average age is 19, so that goes, the average age goes over the limit. So I think it was 33% are below, 33% of Gazans are below, at least below 20. I don't remember the exact age groups. I think I saw them in 3 groups, which would make it less than 20. So 1/3 of Gazans are less than 20 years old or 25 years old or something like that. So a lot of them are going to be militants, and then a lot of them are going to be children who have nothing to do with what the adults are trying to figure out. So that, it sounds accurate, but like said, at this point we don't really know. But these are verified deaths, so we might as well take them with a grain of salt, but at their word in a sense. So 1-to-1 ratio of men and versus women and children. So out of the men, a lot of them are going to also be collateral damage, and then a lot of them are going to be militants. And if 19 is the average age of a Gazan, and 16 to like 25 is the average age of a Hamas militant, then, and also if you add to this, this is where the stories begin to differ, or the narratives begin to differ. So if you say that Israel is targeting militants, then they are at least reaching men more than women and children. So this already shows that women aren't being targeted, at least. So the ones who are being targeted are men, because they're the biggest number here, right? So if there is somebody who the Israelis are targeting, it's going to be adult men, because those comprise the largest number of casualties. If it would be completely looking for a word here, but untargeted, just killing anybody randomly, especially with like bombs and stuff, it would be should be more children, because there's more children than there are adults, and then it should be around 50-50 men and women, because that's the amount of people that usually exist. So there's roughly 50-50 women and men. So we can sort of see that the targeting system that Israel has is aimed at men. So then let's say if it's not aimed at men, it's aimed at militants. Then we can start looking at the numbers, which say that if 46%, ignoring that some of these are militants as well, the children and some of these are militants as well, if 46% of them are from the group that is not men, or not the targeted group, we can we could, using sort of guesstimate math, see that that how many of them are relatively militant and who are not. But let's carry on. Not to get too bogged down, but it is sort of interesting to see these numbers, especially when in situations where lying would actually it would have helped them if they lied more, if they lied. So notably, the deaths of women and children comprise nearly 60% of the total fatalities from the resumption of Israeli military operations on 18th March 25 until 25 March 25. So this is a very short time span of a week. So you can say that 60% of total fatalities then were from children and women. So you can look at, let's say you look at a war, it's been going on for 2 years, and then you pick 1 week out of the war, and during that week something happened, something really bad happened. So a huge accident happened, multiple accidents happened at the same in a row in that 1 week, and then you pick that week, and then you say 60% were innocent. that sort of that's this is relatively irrelevant for me because it shows 1 week which they maybe picked as the worst week. You can translate it that way because we have to begin translating these numbers. We can't take their numbers as meaningful in themselves. We know that there's a catch already because they've already, if not made shoddy work of what they're doing, then I would say intentionally beginning to craft or beginning to push a narrative down, which is not great. According to, I'll just call it OH, there were 224 Israeli strikes on residential buildings and tents for displaced people in the Gaza Strip between 18th March and 9th April 2025. So that's a very short time span again, fairly recent too. So it's a bit less than a month, but I'll call it a month. Well, actually, no. I need to be more fair, so I need to call it half a month. 224 Israeli airstrikes is probably, I would assume that Israel itself publishes these figures for, if not only their own public spokespeople, they are going to publish them somewhere. So these numbers are probably accurate. And here we get to another thing. So these videos are probably going to get shorter as time goes by because we don't need to rehash things that we already know. But here it is important to say that Hamas is embedded in residential buildings, and they also have tunnels in residential buildings. They have weapon caches. They have their militants, of course, live somewhere in residential buildings, so they don't have any military barracks and things like that. They don't have military bases. They have residential buildings, and they booby trap buildings. So if you can't send soldiers into a booby trap building, that's impossible. So you have to take it down because booby traps are by design made to injure, maim, kill. So you don't know where the traps are. You don't know. There's no script on how to demolish every bomb. This is not like a game or a TV show or a movie where somebody comes in and back in '85 I know these traps and then they just take all the traps out and arrest everybody alive. That's not how war works. So you don't respawn. There's no script. You need to take them down. And the tents, I think they're going to allude to the tents later. So it might be 2 tents in one instance, or we don't know because they don't give us the numbers. So it could be a million tents, or it might be tents plural as in 2. So we don't know that. But Hamas goes to buildings and tents, so they work everywhere. And Israel is trying to target the militants, so we know that they're at least targeting men, if nothing else. And then sometimes they go into tents, and then there's this this idea of wait for a strike. So if you have a very low value target, like a messenger or chef or something, I don't know why you would get rid of a chef, but a messenger that you want to take out, you can just let them go unless they are doing something really important. If you have a very high value target, you are going to risk more deaths because these high value targets don't just pop up and walk down the street all day. They come up and maybe you spot them, maybe you don't. But when you spot them, then you make the decision on whether it's worth to get rid of him, because if they get rid of them, the war is going to end sooner, which means less deaths. And it's very unfortunate for the people there, but this is how war is. So you can't blame the realities of war really on anybody because the universe has these laws that nobody crafted, and we have to, respect them, and we can try to bend them, and we can try to make things as good as possible. But then there are situations where we have to mathematically make choices, and this is the biggest reason why anti-war and just being against offensive wars or stupid wars is so important, because we want to be fair, we want to be just, so we don't want people to be a mathematical number when you're taking down some, dictator or terrorist leader or something like that. That's not something you want to instigate and then start making those choices as an aggressor. When you're defending, it's also something you don't want to do, but it's something that you were forced to do, and this is why I think it's really important to focus on the attacker, so the one who starts an attack. And the one who starts an attack is the side that after you've made a deal, you break it intentionally and you declare war or something like that. That's the sort of the aggressor. And you can get into the weeds and at this point, like you can say whatever led to this attack on October 7th, but we all know that the reason Israel went into Gaza after October the 7th, it's very clear it's because Gazans attacked them. So you can think whatever you want about that. It's irrelevant to this investigation, because this is not about the war itself. This is about a genocide. So it's very difficult sometimes to separate yourself. So if you hate somebody, you want them to be guilty, maybe. So so you have to try to keep a clear mind. And from my personal perspective, I support this war in a sense where I support Israel's attempts to do what their intended goals are, and then I do not support the Gazan movements of violence at all. But saying that is sort of unhelpful, because it doesn't really matter to this report. So let's go forward. So in some 36 strikes about which the UN Human Rights Office corroborated information, the fatalities recorded so far were only women and children. So 36 reports that they know of, the corroborated information, the deaths were only women and children, and no men were involved at all in the death. So this is another one of those where we don't know that, or we can't know that. And they have press briefing notes, and Gaza increasing Israeli evacuation orders lead forcible transfer. So they have something like this going on, and you can read from this that Israel is increasing evacuation orders, and this idea of forcible transfer is a sort of a negative way of saying evacuate. So they use a lot of language like this, where evacuation orders lead to forcible transfer, which is like, of course, and that's a good thing. Like, evacuation is a good thing, but they try to make evacuation sound like a bad thing. So you can already see that in their notes here, they are trying to use language that is inaccurate. So if I give you an example, you can say Israeli increases evacuation orders, period. And then you can say how many, like, is it successful or not? So that's the neutral way of doing it. So if you don't have any agenda, you use very neutral language. And evacuation is a thing that happens in war. Forcible transfer is that you are moving people by force for fun. Evacuation inherently includes that you are evacuating from a danger zone. But let's go on. So yeah, we don't. It could be true, but it might not be true. We really don't know, and we can go and read these, but then it's going to lead us down a rabbit hole. So we have to work with what we have, or we don't have to, but we are going to. It's human to do that. On 25th March 2025, Save the Children reported that more children have been killed in the first week since Israel resumed its military operations in Gaza compared to any other week since 7th of October. So this again could be true. I forgot to check Save the Children when I was reading this report. Like, who are they? What type of reports are they doing? Are they using like illegal language? Are they calling it a genocide or not? So you can take Amnesty, and they have already called it a genocide. They have said that they have illegally called it a genocide when nobody has yet to come out legally and define it as genocide. So they can say that their opinion is that it's genocide, or they need to use something to justify it. But you can already know that Amnesty is not neutral. It is not only anti-war, it is anti-Israel, and that is not good for any type of source. And that they can say whatever, or they can't really say whatever, but they bend as much as they can just to make something look really bad. And it's Maybe sometimes they speak the truth, maybe sometimes they don't, but I personally don't know Save the Children. So right now we're just going to accept this. So the first week of the repeated offense, more children have died than ever. So how would they know? I wouldn't dare guess. But all information is controlled by Hamas, so there's a chance. Hamas told them that there's a chance that they went to every hospital and every ruin and went through the. Let's say they saw the largest number of bodies of children in a row, because even with confirmed deaths, it's really hard to know because some deaths are unconfirmed, some people are just missing, and so on. So it's difficult to get this kind of data, but this is a very relevant number. It's larger than. The Commission notes with alarm a report that finds, as of May 2025, Israeli intelligence officers have listed 8,900 militants from Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza as dead or probably dead. So now we're getting to, it sounds quite aggressive, but I'll call it a lie. The first sort of, I think maybe a second, but first like a very demonstrable lie. So this is an Israeli report where 8,900 militants are dead or probably dead. So I would say probably dead means that they haven't seen the body yet, but they're pretty sure that some type of event happened where a person is very unlikely to survive and they haven't seen them again. Now, the lie is not this one. This is, I would say, as accurate as it gets. But the next one, the what they infer from this is it's already been like publicly debunked, and we're going to do it again. But they had to know that it's been debunked, unless they're like in a complete bubble where they just write this stuff and then they don't really check on the lies that they spread, or they don't check on the lies that they're given, which is not something that an inquest should be doing. So, considering at this point 53,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks, it means that 83% of those killed in Gaza were civilians. Now, this is a very straight statement, and it's based on hidden and falsified data and abused data, I would call it. So what the information was given was that the Israeli officials had 8,900 named dead. So they knew these people, they knew who they were, they knew them by name, and from all the people that they know by name, 8,900 are dead. And they say 53,000 Palestinians were killed at that point. I don't know, and we can't really know. They don't, like, where does that number come from? It is Hamas, because I also need to state, nobody is at the ground. Of these three people who are involved in making this report, none of them have been on the ground in Israel, in the Israeli side of the now occupied territory, or the Gazan side. So they rely on information that comes from Israeli officials, and then of course, like, you can have some private documents, or you can have some videos and photographs and things like that. But then if they're on the Hamas side, they will come through a filter, I would say, as much as possible. And if something goes out without the approval of Hamas, then it won't happen again from that same person, most likely. But let's accept the numbers. The way that I condensed this problem was that you have one room. If you have one room and you have 100 American people inside that room, and you know the names of 20 people inside that room, how many Americans are there inside that room? So that's the sort of the way to see the issue with this, the framing and the abuse of the data. So if you know the names of 20 Americans in a room full of Americans, everybody's still going to be an American inside that room. So here you have 53,000 Palestinians who have been killed, and you know the names of 8,900 of them. how many of them are militants? Well, you don't know. There's no way of inferring that data. You can maybe make a guesstimate of, if you knew a little bit more, and the officials would say, for example, this is how many militants we've targeted. Then you could say that, all right, well, now we have something. But this is complete falsification of data. So there is no 83% civilian deaths. If there is, it means that Israel has killed militants, and they've known them all. They've known each and every one of those militants, and then nobody else. There have been no unknown militants on the ground. So let's say a 16-year-old who's never been on the radar but is now called to fight. There's none of that. So we'll also go into the children pile automatically, even if they are militants. We can assume that because that's how this sort of document is framed, where you have children and you have no separation of a militant child, an armed child, or a 17-year-old who's going to turn 18, tomorrow. They're going to be a child in this. So it's very, now we for sure, like if there was any doubt whether this report is going to be questionable, at the very least, we're at the second paragraph of the actual sort of event of this report, and we know that they are so intentionally falsifying data. I would say so, and if this is a mistake, it's a kind of error that you would make intentionally at this high level. And then if it's a complete mistake and they just made a mistake, they didn't know what what happened, they didn't even understand what the error was, then we can just, if that's true, then we can just discard this entire document, because this is such low-level stuff. But the reason that I think it's intentional is that they cut out the parts where they say that it is named individuals, named militants. So they don't add that at all. So they always, when there's a little bit of vagueness or something's missing, or if there's a statement that seems at a surface like very bad, and it's missing a little bit of some context that would be needed, it is always in the favor of the prosecutory idea of trying to get this through. And also in the legal references, they mentioned the South Africa case against Israel. And I listened to a lawyer talk about that case, and a lot of it was very familiar to this report. So they are, in a way, riffing from each other. So they can say, the UN report said this, and then then the South Africa case, the people from South Africa can say the UN said this, and then when they say it, then the UN can say, well, the South Africa case had this and this piece of information. So nobody's really, they are all liable, but they try to sort of avoid these traps, or they seemingly try to avoid this sort of responsibility for whoever made these things up. So they are riffing off of authority. And like mentioned before, when you have a lot of authority, and then you have a lot of authority figures, it might end up that they are just riffing from each other, and they are taking the things that they want to take that are really bad. But then, of course, the people are going to, increase numbers and fabricate things to make something look really bad. So eventually you might end up with something that is so untrue that everybody's riled up. Like, everybody is riled up to 90% with lies, and then they get 10% of some mistake or something. They use the 90% of lies to turn that into like an evil intent or something. So that's pretty clear at this point to me, that this is what's going on from two paragraphs, and the bombshell at the end of this one is sort of, it speaks of high ineptitude, if I'm being very, very gracious about it. Goodbye.